Students. So today I will be teaching about scleroderma, and this topic is for GNM second year. It is from Unit 13. So let us see what is scleroderma. Okay, so coming to the definition, it is a multi-system collagen vascular disease of unknown etiology or unknown cause. Okay, there is no cause why the scleroderma is taking place. Okay, and it is characterized by fibrosis of the skin with involvement of the internal organs. Okay, so this scleroderma, okay, it is a collagen. It is a collagen disease. Okay, the collagen tissues. It is a multi-system collagen vascular disease, and it is characterized by fibrosis of the skin. So the skin is being fibrosed. Okay, it is being hard, and it can involve any of the internal organs. It can be the heart, or it can affect the skin, or it can affect the lungs, the gastrointestinal system, or it can affect the muscles, okay, the musculoskeletal system. So they also involve the internal organs. So next, in scleroderma, the abnormal buildup of fibrous tissue in the skin can cause the skin to become tight. Okay, it is not soft, but it makes the skin becomes very tight, so that the fingers will curl. Okay, the fingers will try to they will try to flex a little bit. They will make a curl and lose their mobility. Therefore, they are not able to do any of the daily activities. Okay, why is this happening? Why is our skin being tight? Okay, and our fingers are being curled like this. Okay, why? Because there's because of the fibrous tissue. Okay, too much of the fibrous tissue is being built up in the skin, and it becomes fibrosed. Okay, because of the collagen tissues. Okay, so there will be fibrous tissue in the skin, abnormal buildup of fibrous tissue in the skin. Therefore, the skin will become very, very tight. It will not be loose, it will be very tight. And because of that, the fingers, they will curl like this. They are not flat, they will become curl and they will lose their mobility, meaning they will not be able to do any activity. So this is nothing but scleroderma. Okay, derma coming from the word skin. Okay, so coming to the epidemiology or incidence, the prevalence 4 to 12 new cases can occur per million per year. Okay, so in 1 year, about 4 to 12 new cases per million can occur. Okay, so as you can see, scleroderma is very, very common. Next, susceptibility to host factor. Okay, so let us see what are the some of the factors that are present in the host. That is, one is the age. Okay, people about 35 to 65 years. Okay, during this age group, they will have more of scleroderma. Next, this occurs mostly in female than in males. Okay, and hereditary or genetic background. Okay, so genetics also play a very important role in scleroderma. Okay, so if there's any change in any error or any changes in the genes, okay, so that will lead to mutation of the genes, and patient will they will have these develop this scleroderma. Okay, and it occurs mostly in the females, and which age group? 35 to 65 years. Okay. Next, scleroderma is of two types. Okay, it's coming to the classification of scleroderma. It is of two types. One is localized and one is systemic sclerosis or systemic scleroderma. Okay, localized meaning local, only on one specific area, whereas systemic meaning it can spread to all over the body. So there are two types, localized and systemic scleroderma. Localized is divided into morphea and linear scleroderma, whereas systemic sclerosis or systemic scleroderma is divided into three. Number one is limited cutaneous scleroderma. Number two, diffuse cutaneous scleroderma. And number three, systemic sclerosis or semi scleroderma. Okay, so these are some of the classifications of scleroderma. So basically it is divided into two. One is localized and one is systemic. So let us see, starting with the localized scleroderma. Okay, so localized scleroderma is divided into two, that is morphea and linear. Okay, so let us see first with the morphea. Morphea meaning it is a rare skin condition that causes reddish or purple patches on the skin. So there will be patches, it can be red color, it can be purple in color, and it is present on the skin. Okay, this tends to affect only the outermost layer, that is the of the skin, the dermis and the fatty tissue just beneath the dermis. So it affects the epidermis and it also affects the dermis tissue and the fatty tissues. Okay, so these are the three layers that this morphea will take place. Next, location. What are the parts of the body that this morphea can take place? One is abdomen, in the chest, the back, the face, the arms and the legs. So these are the location where morphea can take place. So as you can see here, so it can be reddish or it can be purple in color. So it is a patch. Okay? So you can see this is a red patch. Okay? And this is a purple color patch. It is present on the skin. Okay, and which areas? It can be on the epidermis, it affects the dermis and the fatty tissues. And which are the areas that morphea will take place? That is the abdomen, the chest, the back, face, arms and legs. And morphea is very important. It is a rare skin condition, okay, that causes reddish or purple patches on the skin. So this is morphea. It is one of the type of localized scleroderma. So let us see what are the signs and symptoms. Number one is hardening and thickening of the skin. Okay, so like I said, the scleroderma, because of the abnormal build-up, abnormal collection of fibrous tissue on the skin, therefore, this will lead to tightening. There will be tightened skin. Okay, the skin will be tight and it will be hard. Okay, so patient will have hard and thick skin. Okay, color of the skin, okay, it will be different. It is red and it can be purple in color. Next, it is oval shape. As you can see this patch, it is oval or round in shape. Okay, so oval shape patches that may change colors and gradually develop a whitish center. So there will be a white center, a white color at the center, and surrounding can be purple color or red color, and they are round or oval shaped. Next, linear patches, especially when on arms and legs. Okay. Then loss of hair and sweat glands in the affected area. So wherever these patches are present, there will be no hair or the sweat glands will be absent. So these are some signs of morphea. Now coming to the second type, okay, one is the first type is morphea. Now coming to the second type is the linear scleroderma. So in linear scleroderma, okay, it is also like it is the same, it is a patch, but it is in a linear shape. Okay, so it is like a straight shape. You can see here, it is not oval, it is not round, but it is straight. Here also, okay, so it is linear, it is straight. Can you see this is straight? This also white color, it is straight. Here, this is a very good example. You can see this is a straight patch. So this is linear scleroderma. This area or this skin is very hard. It is very thick. Okay, and there is the color. It can be red. It can be purple, and the center will be white in color. So this is linear scleroderma. Next, that was about localized scleroderma. Okay, so we have done morphea and we have done linear scleroderma. Now coming to the other type or the second classification, that is the systemic sclerosis. Okay, so systemic sclerosis, it is a multi-system disorder, meaning not only one system, not only the skin is affected, but the heart, the lungs, okay, the joints, the musculoskeletal system, the gastrointestinal system is also affected. So it is a multi-system disorder, meaning many systems are affected. It is characterized by functional and structural abnormalities of blood vessels. So here the capillaries and the arteries, okay, they are abnormal in the structure, and function also will be abnormal. So there will be functional and structural abnormality of the blood vessels. Number two, what happens in systemic sclerosis? There will be fibrosis of the skin and internal organs. So fibrosis of the skin and internal organs, meaning that the skin will become fibrous, it will be hard, it will be thick. Why? Because of the build-up or the collection or accumulation of abnormal fibrous tissues. Next, immune system activation. Okay, when the immune system also is very low, okay, low immune system, that also patient can develop systemic sclerosis, and it is characterized by autoimmunity. So like I said, in autoimmunity, you remember that here antibodies play a very important role. Okay, the antibodies, what they do, they will attack, okay, they will attack the normal skin, or they will attack the normal joints, or they will attack the normal organs of the body, and therefore patient will have autoimmune diseases. Okay, so it is autoimmunity also. Okay, so systemic sclerosis is autoimmune disorder as well. Okay, it activates when the immune system is very low, and there will be fibrosis of the skin. Skin will be very hard and tough and tight. Okay, even the internal organs will become tight and will become fibrosed, and there will be abnormalities of the blood where their function is abnormal and the structure also will be abnormal. So this is nothing but systemic sclerosis. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now coming to second type, that is diffuse cutaneous systemic sclerosis. This is the second type of systemic sclerosis. So in diffuse cutaneous, there is the proximal skin is thick, okay, the distal and proximal extremities, and often the trunk and face. So what happens is the skin in the trunk area, in the back area, and the buttocks, and the skin on the face, it will become very, very thick. Okay, it is thick and tight. Okay, and there is tendency to rapid progression of skin change. There can be skin changes. The color of the skin can be changed. Okay, and the thickness of the skin, there will be tightness of the skin. Next, Raynaud's phenomenon. Okay, so patient can develop Raynaud's phenomenon. I will show you a picture. Then patient early appearance of visceral involvement, and patient will have poor prognosis. Okay, so you can see here, this is Raynaud's phenomenon. What happens in Raynaud's phenomenon is the blood vessels, they become, there is spasm. Okay, the blood vessels will become, there will be improper tissue perfusion, and there will be improper blood supply. Therefore, whenever they are in response to cold or stress, okay, so patient will develop Raynaud's phenomenon. Okay, so this is diffuse cutaneous systemic sclerosis. So these are some of the characteristics of diffuse cutaneous systemic sclerosis. Okay, what number one is that there will be thick skin over the trunk and the face area. Okay, then there is tendency to skin changes, the color, the tendency, the color, the consistency of the skin will change. Then patient will develop Raynaud's disease, okay, or Raynaud's phenomenon, where their blood vessels will be stopped whenever there is response to cold. Next, patient will develop early appearance of visceral involvement, and there is poor prognosis. Even after taking medications, also the disease condition can increase. Next, third type is limited cutaneous systemic sclerosis. Okay, so this is the third type. Number one is these are some of the characteristics. Patient will have symmetric restricted fibrosis that is affecting the distal extremities and face and neck. So there will be thick skin or tight skin on the face, on the neck, and the extremities. It can be on the legs or it can be on the hands. then there is prolonged delay in appearance of distinctive internal manifestation. Next, prominence of calcinosis and telangiectasia. So calcinosis, as you can see in this, calcinosis coming from the word calcium, right? So calcinosis is calcium deposit in the skin. So on the skin there will be calcium deposits. You can see the calcium deposits. This is called calcinosis. And patient also will have telangiectasia. Telangiectasia is dilation of capillaries. Okay, when the capillaries, they are very dilated. Okay, they are not constricted, they are very dilated, and this causes red marks on the skin, on the surface of the skin. So patient will have red spots on the skin. So that is called telangiectasia. And this limited cutaneous systemic sclerosis is a good prognosis, and whereas diffuse cutaneous, it is a poor prognosis. Okay, and limited cutaneous systemic sclerosis can also have this CREST syndrome. Okay, so you can see here CREST. C is for calcinosis. Calcinosis is calcium deposit in the skin. R is for Raynaud's phenomenon. Raynaud's phenomenon meaning there is spasm, vasospasm of blood vessels in response to cold or stress. So there will be constriction of the blood vessels. Okay, whenever hands are exposed to cold, temperature or stress, then the blood vessels will try to become, there will be vasospasm, vasoconstriction, and patient will develop Raynaud's phenomenon. Next, E is for esophageal dysfunction. If there's any function abnormality in the esophagus, meaning there is acid reflux and decrease in motility of esophagus. Okay, so the motility, there will be acid reflux, meaning whatever the gastric contents the patient is taking, it will come back through the esophagus. S is for sclerodactyly. Sclerodactyly is thickening and tightening of skin on the fingers and hands. So हमारी जो हाथ है वो टाइट हो जाते हैं and it becomes very thick. ठीक है, मोटा हो जाते हैं and thick. The skin is becoming thick and there is tightness. Okay, and T is for telangiectasia. So like I said, there will be dilation. The capillaries will dilate. Okay, they are not constricting but they are dilating, and because of this it causes red marks on the skin. So this is CREST. C is for calcinosis, R for Raynaud's disease, E for esophageal dysfunction, S for sclerodactyly, and T for telangiectasia. So these are some of the symptoms, the limited symptoms of scleroderma. Now coming to the clinical manifestation. This is general. Okay, so here this is Raynaud's phenomenon. So you can see this is becoming cyanosed. Okay, why this happens? Because there is vasospasm in the blood vessels. Okay, because of that, when these people are exposed to cold, temperature or excessive stress, then there is vasoconstriction or vasospasm in the blood vessels, and because of that their hands will become like this. Okay, purple in color. So you can see here also. Next clinical feature is terminal digital resorption. So here, okay, so you can see here the skin is becoming very tight, okay, very thick, and there is curling of the fingers. Next, digital ulcers. So ulcers also can be present on the digits, meaning on the fingers. Okay, so here you can see these are the ulcers formation. Next, calcinosis, meaning the formation of calcium deposits on the skin. So you can see here, these are some calcium deposits on the skin. Okay, here these round things, these are calcium deposits. This is called calcinosis. So other signs and symptoms are, it also affects the other systems of the body such as GI system, gastrointestinal system like dysphagia, difficulty in swallowing, intestinal obstruction, any obstruction in the intestines. Next, musculoskeletal system. Okay, if our musculoskeletal system is affected, then patient will have morning stiffness. Okay, their hands will become stiff, legs, their feet also will become stiff. Next, there will be pain in the joints. If lungs are affected, then patient will have pulmonary hypertension. If heart is affected, the patient will have heart failure and pericarditis, meaning the inflammation of the pericardium, that is the layer of the heart. And if kidneys are affected, then patient will have renal failure. So those are the signs and symptoms of scleroderma. Now coming to the diagnostic test. So there are 4 tests that we can perform. One is the anti-centromere antibody test. Okay, this test helps to diagnose autoimmune disorder, limited cutaneous scleroderma. So this type, remember, this is one of the type of systemic scleroderma. So the presence of this antibody, okay, will help to diagnose the autoimmune disorder, that is limited cutaneous scleroderma. It is a form of systemic scleroderma and CRESS syndrome. So you can see here, okay, so this is the limited cutaneous systemic sclerosis. If this anti-centromere antibody is present, then we can say that the patient is having this disease condition, this limited cutaneous scleroderma. Okay, anti-centromere antibody test. Next is the rheumatoid factor test. So this RF factor, this is very common, just like in rheumatoid arthritis, right? So rheumatoid factor can be detected in the blood of normal individuals and of those with other autoimmune disease. So scleroderma is an autoimmune disease, right? So this RF factor can be present in the blood. So if it is present, then we can say that the patient is having an autoimmune disease, and we can, based on the signs and symptoms, we can suspect that the patient is having scleroderma. Next, the anti-nuclear antibody test, ANA. It is used as a primary test to help and evaluate a person for autoimmune disorder that affects many tissues and organs throughout the body. So this presence of this antibody test will help to detect whether the patient is having any autoimmune disorder, and to check for any systemic scleroderma, okay, because it may affect any other tissues and organs throughout the body. And the last test is anti-SCL70 antibody test. Okay, so this serum anti-topoisomerase, okay, or we call it as SCL70. Okay, SCL70 is a short form for this serum. It is specific to diffuse scleroderma. Okay, so meaning that if this antibody is present, okay, after doing this test, if it is present, if it is positive, then we can say that the patient is having diffuse scleroderma. Okay, and this test is positive in 20% of the people with scleroderma. 2/3 of the patients with this antibody have diffuse scleroderma. So this anti-SCL70 antibody test, it is one of the diagnostic tests to confirm for diffuse scleroderma, which is the one of the type of systemic scleroderma. Okay. So now coming to the goal of treatment. First is prevent any internal organ damage. So we have to prevent the damage to we have to stop, okay, the spreading of this disease condition to the organs of the body, like the lungs, the heart, okay, the kidneys. Okay, so in order to prevent all this, we have to check for the damage. Okay, so we have to prevent for the internal organ damage. Number 2, arrest or slow the deterioration of function in previously involved organs. Okay, so we have to slow down, or we have to stop the deterioration of function, meaning that if the patient is having pericarditis, okay, meaning infection in the pericardium of the heart. So we have to treat the pericardium first, so that this infection will not spread to the other parts of the body. Next, improve the function of previously involved organs, including the skin. So we have to make sure that the patient is having maintaining skin hygiene, okay, and to prevent any other, for example, ulcers. Okay, so we have to make sure that the ulcers are being taken care of. Proper dressing should be done, sterile dressing should be done on the skin for ulcers. So this is the goal of the treatment. So systemic sclerosis treatment strategies. So these are some of the strategies for systemic scleroderma, systemic sclerosis. So drugs, number one is drugs that prevent vascular damage. Okay, like ACV inhibitors. Okay, then epoprostenol, synthetic prostacyclin analog, or bocetan, which is an endothelin antagonist. So these are some of the medications or injections that we can give to the patient to prevent any vascular damage. For example, like in Raynaud's disease, okay, or in telangiectasia. Next, drugs that suppress autoimmunity and inflammation. So these are some drugs like azathioprine, cyclophosphamide, methotrexate, chlorambucil, 5-fluorouracil stem cell transplant. So these are some of the drugs that can suppress the autoimmunity. Okay, it will help in the autoimmune disease condition and also reduce the inflammation. Next, the drugs that can suppress the fibrosis, like D-penicillamine, gamma interferon, alpha interferon, and relaxin. These are medication or drugs that can decrease the fibrosis or decrease the accumulation of the abnormal buildup of fibrous tissues. Okay, or to stop the abnormal collection of abnormal fibrous tissue. So these drugs can be given. Next, coming to the nursing management, provide extra blankets. Okay. Next, maintain warmth in case of Raynaud's disease. Elevate head of the bed. Provide extra pillows. Sit upright when eating and after meals. This is done to prevent any reflux diseases of the GI system. Administer antacid after meals to reduce esophageal peristalsis. Antacids like pantoprazole or Digene. Okay. Ensure adequate and appropriate dietary intake. Assess for any dietary requirement and medication regime. So proper medication should be given and proper diet should be maintained. Assist with daily living activities as necessary. So proper exercise should be given to the patient. Refer to any occupational therapist or any physiotherapist for flexion extension exercises. Extra care required with venipuncture and blood pressure measurement. Okay, so when you have to do BP measurement and when any blood sampling or any cannula insertion, then proper care should be taken to avoid any bleeding. Next, avoid injury. Example, during transfer and ambulation of the patient. If you have to transfer from one ward to another ward or help the patient to go to the washroom or to go to any other OPD, then we have to avoid any injuries to the patient. Because why? Because their immunity is very low, because they are suffering from autoimmune disease condition. Next, massage and application of heat. Create calm, supportive environment and encourage stress reduction techniques, or we have to reduce their stress. So these are some of the nursing management that we can provide to the patient.